from the Philippines, and is one of our client account managers as well as Hazik that are here as well for today, for this afternoon. All right, so let's go. And I know that people will come in as they do after they finish lunch. And I hope your lunch was light enough that your brain will stay focused and nimble, because we are about to do the things that actually really excite me, because I love numbers, but not everybody does. So in case you get overwhelmed with numbers, I want to give you a little, do you want a sneaky Tony Robbins trick about numbers? So there's a sentence that we always use, and it's, I love numbers and numbers love me. Right? So you want to repeat that to yourself while you are doing, or while you're looking at the numbers, if in case you feel like, oh my God, it's too much and it gets overwhelming. It's not that complicated. First, and second, we're showing it to you. You don't actually have to do it. Does that make sense? Okay, so follow along. Let's talk about where we find our deals first, right? So we've got a number of places that we find deals from. The first one could be the auction sites, right? So like the tax auction site, I'm going to show you a couple. You could also go on Facebook. There's wholesale groups. You could buy properties wholesale that way. There's also property websites, of course, like Zillow that we all know, and Craigslist. Some of the auction sites, we gave you a number of names right here that you can follow along with. RealAuction.com, Grand Street, Bid for Assets. These are, most of these are the tax auction sites that we can follow. If you are going on Facebook, the wholesalers Facebook group, you can find wholesaling houses, cash buyers, or real estate. Find a group that has more than 500 participant members in it, and then get on the list, right? So when you see, when you see a property that seems interesting in an area you're interested in, you can comment on the post, and you could say, contact me, I'm a cash buyer, or something along those lines. You might even put a specific email address there. Just be careful that email address, just use it just for that, because you may get spammed a little bit. And then when you end up on the list for these people, you may even get contacted beforehand, before the person advertises it on the Facebook group, right? For Craigslist, you need to know which market you are interested in. So make sure that you know which area you're interested in. So say, for instance, Florida. If you want to invest in Tampa, Florida, you're going to literally type in Tampa, Florida in Craigslist so you can see what's available there. Simple. Also, some of the property markets sites that we use, you're going to see most of these very shortly. Zillow.com, Trulia, Realtor.com, Redfin is another famous one, FSBO.com, right? So these are some of the things where you can find references. Now, you have to understand that the property sites always want the highest prices. And so that's something to keep in mind. Remember, the realtor, it's in the realtor's interest that you pay the highest prices. It's in your interest as the buyer that you pay the lowest interest. When we keep doing the analysis, these are some of the websites that we're going to use. We could use City Data, Data USA, Census.gov, NACO.org, lots of different ones. I like Census.gov because it works. Sometimes the websites don't like the fact that I'm not in the US, as well as it's quite fast. And if you want deeper, more refined data, City Data is a really good one to work with. Except City Data often does not want to work with me. You'll see. I'll demonstrate, and you will understand that a lot better in a minute. All right. All right, medium household. These are the things that we are going to look at. We're going to look at things like medium household income, because we want to know how much income is available in the area, right? We're going to look at the percentage of owners versus renters in the area, because we need to know, we want to know if this area is more prone to buying or to renting. Doesn't mean that we cannot do renting in a high owners area. In fact, we might very well be able to, but we want to know the percentage of white in the population. It is very, very sad, but we do need to know. There's been, for many, many years, there's discrimination. The discrimination does still exist in terms of household income and ownership, right? So it's important for our investment to know what the population breakdown is. We also want to know the population growth rate. What does that mean? It means we need to know whether there is new jobs, for instance, whether there are people moving into the area. So one of the things that we've noticed over the past few years, actually quite a few, is general population migration from north to south. People don't really enjoy being cold, basically, right? So that's one of them. But in the past 2 years, we've had other population migration. We've had people going from the inner cities and small apartments and looking to expand in the suburbs, especially having gone through lockdown in small places. And if they do not have to go into the office every day, it might make sense for them to move to a much cheaper place with a spare bedroom that they can use as an office, right? So that's important to keep in mind as well. We also see, in terms of population growth rate, we also see how people will go from California to Florida, for instance, in part due to the high taxes. I hope that makes sense to you. Yes? Put your thumbs up if that makes sense. Yes? Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. The other thing, of course, that we will look at is not just job growth, though that is important. We will also look at crime rate and school rates. So school ratings can be quite important for some people. School ratings can be quite important because, of course, you have families, right? Or you have 1 child, 2 child family. Is the school okay for people to grow through? So we are going to look at all of that, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how it's done. All right. So give me a second because I need to stop my sharing and bring up the other page. So my first question is, did everybody submit their Gmail address, and does everybody have access to the Gmail? So give me a thumbs up so I can see. Okay, so let me open this. All right. Oh, excuse me. Technology is not doing what I need. There we go. Now I can open in the right place. All right, so can you see my screen? I'm gonna move this. All right, so the access that you got will be this entire folder. Right now, what we are concerned with is this specific file called New Research Template. So those of you that are looking at it on the computer, if you open it, right, you will have access to the New Research Template. 1 second, I need to make that file just a bit smaller. My screen is a little bit too small for that. I think when I upgrade, I'm gonna have to go to a 15-inch. All right, Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is what you get, right? So one of the things that we did to help you as well with the research is we did a step-by-step way of looking at it with most of the links, right? So when you go online, when you open this research template, you will be able to see how things are done. And if you go this way, you will also see that everything is still here. Everything is here. And there's an example, but we're going to do an example together. Let me just delete this one first. It shouldn't be here, so. As I said, there. All right, back to our main list. Sorry about that. I just want you to have a really clean spreadsheet so you can see it. And I can see that I have a few people on the spreadsheet, which is great. That will allow you to see a bit more clearly what I'm doing. So what you have up here is the actual tax auction that we are going to look at. This is Duval County, and Duval County is Jacksonville, Florida. We like Duval County and we like Jacksonville, Florida, because there's a lot of population growth and job creation, even that. And Florida, lots of people want to come there. Right, so we're gonna go and open the tax deed. All right. Okay, so when you open the tax deed, you can follow. I gave you the link, right? We're going to look at auction calendar, right? We want to know which one is the next auction. We know already it's on the 11th of August, right? And you could see that it's a link. So on this auction on the 11th of August, we're going to click there. And when we click, we get an entire list of places, right? It's auction that will start on the 11th of August, right? All of that. It's 8 pages, as you could see. I think if I point, it's not going to help you. I want to draw your attention to this part. Auction closed or canceled. Right, so there's 2 reasons why a property that was on auction may not still be on auction. The first one, the 2 main reasons. The first one is the person paid it or somebody paid it. So you could see here, it says redeemed. That means that the person paid for this. So if you check here, you could see it's probably a house and somebody found the $2,000 that they needed. Single family, there should be a picture as well. Right, so there's a house here. So we know this one's not available, right, because it's been redeemed. Canceled per county usually is if the county cannot get the property, or if the county is if the owner goes bankrupt. If the owner files for bankruptcy, the county cannot sell the property. It doesn't matter. What matters for us is, well, this is not available. That's it, right? So all the property works that way. It's actually quite good. So all the properties that are available. Now you see here very little numbers, don't you? So for instance, this one on Moncrief Road is $2,433, and the actual assessed value of it is $9,000. So we know that it is not. It's not land. It's not a house. It's mostly land, right? Are we looking for land? No, we're not looking for land. We're not looking. We're not looking at buying land. We are looking for a single family home, right? So most likely our assessed value will be much higher than what is owed. There are other things. So let's check out, I'm going to check this one out just for you to see what it is. Okay, so you could see here, right? If you look, this is the appraiser's sheet on the about this specific property I just clicked on, and you could see it tells you here vacant residential, so nothing on it. You could buy the land and build something, but right now it is vacant. So for us, not necessarily what we're looking for. Mr. Mel, you could, but it's quite expensive to build at the moment. So you might be able to buy the land and keep it. It's entirely up to you. This is not what we are currently doing for our clients. That's really all. So it's not that it's not advisable. It's not so much the purview of what we're doing right now. So now if we see this one, 830 Broxton Street, that's hard to say for me, right? It's got opening bid of 3,600 and an assessed value of 30. So let's check what it is. Right now we are looking. We're looking, and we see a lot of trees and we don't really see a house. But it says it's a single family home. It says it's a single family home with 2 bedrooms, but 1 bath. It may, it looks like it's actually here. Sometimes when they're so cheap, it is because there is a mobile home on them. Now, what is the problem about a mobile home as opposed to a single family home? What could be the challenge if we invest in a mobile home? Well, one of the words is the problem. Yes, they get to decide when to move it. And this is what happens. You buy the place that has a mobile home on it, and then you get a piece of land. Not necessarily a bad idea, but same thing, not necessarily what we are looking for right now. So this one, no. Okay, let's see if we can find something that catches our attention. So 1,000, that's usually a piece of land. Oops, this is a whole page of thousands. We're going to pass these ones. This one as well. Tinsley Road. This one may be an option. Let's have a look. So I'm looking for one to show you, right? But when we do it for an auction, for instance, for this specific auction, we actually go through every single family home and we do the research for every one of them. Right now, I'm looking at finding a fun one for us to do together. But normally, we'll just do everything. All right, so this is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. These pictures seem to show there is a house there. It's a single family. It's a possibility. Let's keep going. Let's see. There was one that caught my attention earlier. Oh, let's look at this one, just out of curiosity, because you see the opening bid here is quite high compared to the asset. So what sort of asset is that? Let's check. Still a single family home. So the assessed value of this single family home, and you could see the roof here, is only $34,000. But they owe quite a lot. So depending on the area, we may not be able to generate the kind of return that we would be looking for. So that's the other thing, of course, that we will look at in a minute. Payne Street, no. See what's hiding on the last page. This one, oh, 30,000 and the assessed value is 53. That's quite a big difference. This one is most likely a single family home. Yes, single family. See what the picture says? Yep. See how many 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So generally for us, we tend to look for three bedrooms. Generally, it's easier. It's kind of easier to sell. Ooh, this one, the property. Okay, so I want to show you this one because it's relevant, right? You see the amount owed, fairly large assessed value, but the address is not full. Most likely, this is actually vacant commercial. So you have an idea, but it's not going to be a property for us. So we're going to close this one right away so we don't get confused. Oh, Lorry Drive. Let's have a look at Lorry Drive. Single family. Oh, it's got a swimming pool. Check this out. Can you see it? Everybody see the swimming pool? All right, and it's got 3-bed, 2-bath. Shall we do this one? What do you think? Let's do the one with the swimming pool. It's an exciting idea. All right, so first thing that we're going to put in, we're going back into our research area, right? So you see here, well, let's start with me putting my name in. Oh, actually fits. And then it's at auction. So I'm going to put in auction because we need to know where it's coming from. The research ID, we generally just use the parcel ID. So we know it's Lorry Drive, 173210. I think it's 4 zeros, if I'm not mistaken. 73214, 4 zeros. Okay. And the address, 5448 South Lorry Drive. So the first thing we want to do with that, very important, is we want to make sure, okay, just give me a second. So Lorry Drive. Okay. So I'm just going to close the other ones so my computer doesn't get too cluttered. Did I get it right or did I get it wrong, Mr.? Oh, well spotted. All right. Thank you for telling me. 137. Oh, who fixed it? Somebody fixed it for me. All right. Okay. Thanks, Miss Hang. I appreciate that. All right. So our property, 5448 South Lorry Drive, Jacksonville, Florida, right? So the first thing we're going to do is check what Google Maps says about it. Because sometimes, very often, in fact, while the appraiser says the address is like 5338 South, they will go 5338 Lorry Drive South. So we want to know what's going on with that. So we're going to go on Google Maps. And before I sent my Google Map directly to this address, I will go to Jacksonville, Florida. Why am I doing that? Well, sometimes it freaks out. So we don't want to make it freak out too much. And for all of you that do not know Jacksonville, Florida, that gives you an idea about where it is. So let me just shrink out just a sec so you get an idea. This is the coast, right? Orlando here, where you have Disney World. Disneyland, well, one of those. And then Miami, all the way there. Between Miami and Jacksonville is about 9-hour drive. And our team actually has done it in the past. So that's all the way along the coast. All right, so now let's input our address. And our address was, let me go back, just check, 5448 Lorry Drive. Oops, back here, 5448. Lorry Drive South, you can see here. So the correct address for our purpose is going to be this one. Right now, and we can see Google Map actually will show us a picture if they have one, so we can see that the property actually does exist. But we don't know how old this picture is. Very important to keep in mind. So I'm going to copy this address so I can paste it right here. because we know that is the correct address. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, simple enough. All right, now we're gonna go into what amount is owed. 7530.43. All right, so that's what is currently owed for this property. Now, I want to point something out. I don't know if you've seen here. Can you see the owner? Hill Betty Jean Boy Estate. What it means is that the previous owner of this property passed away, right? And that's why the amount was not paid. So just something to keep in mind. Right, next. What do we need next? We're going to look for the grade and for the estimated market value. So you could see everything is color coded on this, so you can actually work with it as well. So you see the orange color coding, that's going to be a home union. These two, we're going to go to home union, and you can actually just open it that way. Miss Kate, I've never been to St. Augustine, but I've heard of it quite a lot. Important section here about using home union. You want to go here because what we're going to look for is the rent estimate as well. So we're going to click here first. And for pretty much every single one of those websites, we will enter the address manually because the website will recognize the address, and it will be a lot easier for everyone. Laurie. See, now it recognizes it right away. Now we search. All right, so next to the address right here, you could see the little house, and it says it's a grade C property. So we're going to update here, and we will go to grade C. So the grade here, the area grade, refers to the quality of the property. And basically, A would be the best area in Los Angeles or the best area in Miami or New York. B and C are the most standard ones, and it depends on the neighborhood. We do not invest in D grade neighborhoods. D grade neighborhood can be quite ghetto, and for us as either flippers or landlords, it might not be a good investment. You can invest in a D grade very cheaply, but you may or may not be able to ever sell your property afterwards. Make sense? All right, now let's see what it says in terms of the market value here. So home union, back to home union. Market value, 162,056. All right, and don't touch the yellow, the sort of slightly yellow things, because the calculations are done on their own. All right, next, we're going to look for the potential rental for this property. The estimate from Laurie Drive is 1185. They probably don't know there's a swimming pool there, but that's okay. It's just an estimation. All right. Next, we're going to go back to our parcel ID. So since we already typed it in and I'm not the fastest person, I'm going to copy and paste. Okay. The next section goes back to our appraisers link, right? So when we clicked on the parcel ID number from the auction site, we got onto the appraisers number. So that's the appraisers page. So the next section of information we will get come from this page. We're going to look at the building value, extra feature will get added, and the land value. So let's go back here. Okay, so we're going to go for the land value first because that's the easiest, and then we will do the improvement value. So land value was 35,000. That's easy. All right. Now, for our improvement value, because this house also, this property also has a swimming pool, there's an extra feature value. That's the swimming pool, right? And by the way, we're going to go with the certified numbers, not the ones that are currently in progress. But one of the things that you may want to notice is how much the prices have gone up in the past year. That's quite a substantial markup, but we're going to go for the older ones. So 74,603 plus 10,064. Okay, so the assessed value of our property was 119,667 last year, right? We can see that it's the right number. So some of it is kind of repetitive, right? We will literally pull out the information from different websites so that we have all the information. Of course, if you do it for just one, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if we do it for every single family homes that are available in this current auction, then we start having comparisons. And that's where it's really important. So next, right, we arrive at the blue. Can you see the blue things at the top? This is where we go into one of our favorite, and that is Zillow. We already know it's a single family home. So, and by the way, we've also given you all the links right here. So you can actually just choose to open them directly through the form. All right, so Zillow. We will do exactly the same thing as I've done before, right? 5448 Laurie Drive South, Jacksonville. Now you could see Zillow always has higher estimates than the other websites. So while it's good to know that these exist, we tend to take the estimates from other websites as well. So what are we looking for from Zillow? First, we could see a few pictures, and then we can scroll down, and we're going to get some information about the place. All right, so if you keep going, facts and features is where we are. Right, so we're going to look. It's a single family home built in 1959. My brain doesn't hold that much information in one go, so I go slowly. Plus, I don't want to lose you. Single family home. So year built, 1959. And for some people, you may think, oh my God, but that's such a long time ago. Is it a good thing? It's okay. It really depends on the quality, but upgrading the building itself, it might not be a problem at all, right? So you see it's got central aircon, so that's probably been installed later. All right, what else do we need about this property? We need to know it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1268 square feet. So 3-bed, 2-bath, 12, did I say 58? Or is it 68? 68. Gee, that ADD is a killer sometimes. All right, 9094 square feet is the size of the lot. Now, what sometimes happens in Zillow is you will get the lot in acre. Not a problem. There is a great Google thing where you just say literally, how much is X number of acres in square feet? But here it's already done, so we don't have to worry about it. 9094. Okay, that's all. That's all the information we get from Zillow. All right, are you with me? Okay, thank you very much. Give me a thumbs up if your picture's not on so I know you're with me. Thank you, Mr. Aditya. Thank you, Miss Kate. Thank you, Mr. Iway, Miss Felicia. All right, next. So we are getting into the assessment of the area, school rating, crime rating, household income, right? So bright yellow, school and crime rating, that's going to be another property website called Trulia. We're going to go on to Trulia. It always wants to sell me things. All right, and for Trulia, I'm going to go, same thing, 5448 Laurie. There you go, Laurie Drive South. All right, so Trulia has an estimate of 191,000 for this house. When you scroll down, you will see local information, right? So crime rate, you could see here, it says lowest crime relative to the rest of Duval County. Easy, it's right here. So I'm gonna go back and look at crime rates again, and I'm gonna click in lowest. Simple enough. Then we're gonna look for the school rating. When I click here, it's gonna tell me, usually we go with the high school, so it's 4 out of 10. 4. All right. So far, so good? Yeah? All right. Before we go and research household income, owners, and percentage of white people, I think I'm going to put in all my links so I have access to them later. Of course, as I say, we're doing one, so it doesn't matter so much. But when we do a whole series, we need to make sure we have everything. That makes our life much easier. So it's a case of copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Here we go. This one's done. Okay. Home Union. Zillow. Yes, Kate. Go ahead.
Yeah, Veronica, what is the importance of white percentage?
Okay, so there's several reasons for that. The first one is it is easier for white people to purchase properties. They are more likely to get a mortgage. So it's important for us to know. Secondly, unfortunately, white are usually have a higher household income. Thirdly, in general, the areas that have more white people are usually more gentrified. So that's 3 reasons for us as an investor to actually know that. It doesn't mean we're not going to go into it, because of course, one of the things that we always do is to really go and check the area, not just on paper, but it's something to keep in mind. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Okay,
this actually comes from, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's called The Divide. And while those rules are no longer supposedly in existence, there's still the impact of it.
Could I do a follow-up question?
Yes.
I used to live in Menlo Park, Palo Alto, California.
Yes.
And when walking around there, Caucasian people, though, in a festival, I saw a lot of Asians come out.
Yeah.
So does that have an indication to the white percentage? I did see a lot of Asians.
Well, you will see it. I will show you later, because yes, we might actually make a note, especially if it's a lot of Asians, we might make a note. Unfortunately, there's kind of a layering of the population, right? And yes, the percentage of Asian will be actually quite a good thing for us to have generally. So, but this is actually a much granular piece of research. This is really the general sifting that I'm showing you right now.
Learning. Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Much.
Thank you, Miss Kate. All right. Let's go to our last section in this specific spreadsheet is going to Census Reporter. And Census Reporter tells us everything that was found out in the census. Of course, they've got one coming up this year, which is going to be very interesting. But all we do is we input the address. Up, Laurie Drive South. I've seen it. All right. So this is where it is. You could see it. It's not very clear, right? And there's different sizes. So the smallest, the most granular size is the block group. And that's where we're going to get our numbers from. But you could go for the census tract, the zip code, then you could see the school district. There's a lot of information available, right? But we're going to go for this one. And when I click on this, it's going to give me a snapshot of the population during the last census. And this is what it looks like. So the median age for this area was 36.8. What we are looking for is going to be the median household income, right? So we're going to with this one first, 5430. Right, and then we go back and we are looking for the percentage of owners and the race. So you can see here, race and ethnicity, it will tell you 28% white, 48% Hispanics, and 19% Black. And it even compares to other areas in Jacksonville, right? And you can see Asians are about 3%. So 28% white. All right, next, we're going to look for owners versus renters. Because this is going to give us an idea whether this property is good for buying or for selling or renting. Now you could see, first, this is really interesting. This area is 100% occupied. There's no vacant properties, or there was no vacant properties at the time. Here, ownership of occupied units, 81% owner. So this is most likely going to be an area where we will have people looking to buy. Last but not least, you can look at this out of curiosity, number of single units, so a house on a piece of land, multi-units, that's going to be an apartment block, mobile homes. All right, so there's 7% of the population lives in a mobile home in this area of Jacksonville. Our number that we're looking for right now is just owner occupied, 81%. Which is very promising for us. For us looking at flipping the property, it's actually very promising. All right, so far so good. And that's it. This sheet is done, right? Of course, as I said before, when we are doing the full research, most likely we'll have 10, 20 properties right here. Next, we're going to single out, so here we only have one, but you're going to single out of all the properties that you have in there, we're going to single out the one that we want to do the analysis for. So that's going more into just this property rather than the area. So we have a sheet here that is called analysis. The first thing that I please beg of you to do is to copy it, or duplicate it. Make a copy, because this is the master sheet. So if you start doing your research in there, then you don't have it available any longer, right? So I'm going to do a copy and I'm going to rename it. Okay, so I invite you to also look right here, flip or rent. So if you're looking to do rental, the form will be slightly different. Here, we're going to do the flipping side. So I'm going to go to this one and it's going to look like this. What do I want next? I want, very important, the research ID. So I'm going back to my main list and I'm taking the research ID so that it can auto-populate some of the information. Here we go. I have the address, I have the Google map, the offer price, the closing date is going to be 11th of August. So for those of you that have not lived in the US, one of the things in the US is that very often they will give the dates reversed from the way we do it. So instead of saying 11th of August is 11/08/21, they will do 08/11/21. To make sure that we have clarity, when I do these, I always will use words. And just for clarity's sake, to make sure that we have everything we need. All right, so next, we're going to look at all the estimates that are available. So Zillow will be our first port of call. And we saw that Zillow thinks this property is worth $191,000. Oops, no, not 191. Give me zeros. There, much better. Okay, how much did Home Union think? Is that, no, that's Trulia. Let's go to Home Union. Home Union thought 162,056. Okay, let's check HomeSnap. Oh, not 9, 8. Lori. Okay, you just spotted the price, right? HomeSnap thinks that the value is 172. As I said before, we've noticed that Zillow is always quite high. 172. Okay, and ePraisal doesn't like me, so I'm going to change it to Redfin. I am not a robot. Please don't give me bicycles. Yay! And it knows what I'm looking for. So Redfin thinks this house is worth 177,829. All right, so these are the important, that allows us to get a snapshot of more or less what people think it's worth. Just at the bottom, I'm just going to put my name. No, first, when is, oh, 1st of August. And then, okay, here we go. Next, we're going to go and look at what the market is like for this property, because we want to know whether there is demand, whether there are properties available. Sometimes there are not. So we really want to make sure that this has potential. And Zillow is one of our best port of call for that. So I want to look at sold. in the area. So you could see here, I can change it. I also can change the size, right, for our research. We want to see what recently sold in the area. And by the way, our property is always right in the middle. So we just so you consider, it's on Laurie Drive South, right? And it's always right in the middle. I think it's right here, actually. So we can see here, recently sold homes in Jacksonville, Florida. And when you hover over them, you could see where they are. Only 2, really. No, there they are, more. And you could see the date, right? It's really important for us to have the most recent numbers so we can check. So let's go with this one. We're going to click on, take this address, 4220 Darrell. There must be Darrell. Anyway, okay. 4220. I think it's Darrell Street, if I remember that one correctly. So it's 321282 square feet. So very similar size, right? And it was sold. Yep, I did it again, 82. And it was sold for $215,000. Okay, and it was sold on the 23rd of July. Very recent. We like very recent number. All right, next. What's after that? This one was sold on the 1st of July. So 5470 Wynwood Drive. Was also a 3-2. Let's check the size of it. 1092 for 205. And it sold on the 1st of July, 21. Okay. What else happened in the market? So you could see the entire area, right? You could kind of come up with an average and everything. And I can tell you that, for instance, this one that was sold at 135, if I click on it, we will probably find out that the sale happened quite a while ago. And it doesn't, it's what, there you go. It was sold in 2019. So the estimate for this property is much higher. It also was sold as is, and probably we would find it as cleaned up for somebody else. All right, so now let's go. We had this one was sold on the 14th of May, 4109 Piper Drive. So 3-2, 1612, bigger, 179. Okay, and then it's sold 14th of May. Now you know why I write the name, because I always get confused as well. All right, next, let's see how many transactions. There was quite a few in May, right? And we really need to be able to compare. Well, you see here, there's May, and this goes back to February. So February, we know the numbers are a bit different. So let's go with this one. 5468 Juno Drive. Okay, 32. 2454. Wow, quite a big place. but it was sold for 275 as well. So per square foot, that was about 112, right? That's what we're looking for, 11th of May. Okay, let's see if we can find a couple more for comparison purposes. So you could see that let's check this one. It's just, yeah, see, there was still work to be done. Looks pretty nice indeed. It's for sale. So I want to point this out to you because it's important. What was it sold for? 123,500. So what happened was it was purchased by somebody that was looking to do a flip. And then he's putting it on the market 100,000 above, right? Obviously did some work on it as well. So something to think about. Now, because I want to have some comparison purposes, I'm going to make this perimeter a little bit bigger. So I'm going to zoom out a bit and see what else we have in the area. 14th of July. Where's this one? Okay, it's right at the edge, but we'll still put it in. 5538 Santa Monica Boulevard. Okay, it's also a 3-2. Check out the sides. 1155, it was sold for 150. So that's 130 per square foot. That's what we're looking at, right? And then on the 14th of July, Bastille Day. '21. All right. See if we have one more here that is from July as well. Yes, we have this one on the 2nd of July. 5553 Sherry Lane. Where is it? So we see when I hover over it, it's actually going to show it to us. So let me just move this a little bit so you can see it. When I hover, it will show me the property. It's right there, up north. Okay, 5553 Sherry Lane. Okay. 3-2. 1131. 1311. 2nd of July. I think that's what it was. 227,500. Yes. All right. So this is kind of some of the most recent transactions. We may, if we're really looking at buying this property, we might go for a bit more safe look if there's something in June, for instance, in this area. Obviously, June was a quiet time, but we might look at more of the properties so we have an idea what's going on, right? Juno Drive we've done. So that gives us a picture. The reason why we do this is, let me show you on the form right here. It's going to give us on the houses recently sold, it's going to give us the average value and the average price per square foot. An idea of what the market currently is. Does that make sense? Are you still with me? Thank you, Miss Felicia. Thank you, Mr. Yue. Yes. Thank you, Linda. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Now, let me go to the next step. Now we want to know what's available, right? Because if we're going to buy the property and put it for sale, we need to know what the competition is. So same thing, we go back to Zillow. And if you remember, first I'm going to go back and because I moved the boundary. So I want to make sure that we go back to where we were. It's not this one. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to look at what is for sale in the area. Nothing. The only one that's for sale is the one that we were talking about earlier that was purchased for half the price. So very close by, there's only this one. So we're going to put this one in, right? 5353 Betty Ann Lane. It's a 3-2, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 3-2, 1440, and the price is 225. Okay, how long has it been on the market? We're gonna have to click, find out how long it's been on the market. Sometimes the listers can pay to not have the number of days, because of course, the longer it's been on the market, it's a bit like fish, it starts to smell. It's been on the market for 5 days. Now, if we have quite a few properties for sale on the market for a few days, what does it tell us? Is it a buoyant market or is it a down market? Potentially, it can be a buoyant market, especially if the days listed are very short. What we've noticed recently is that properties stay on average for sale for about 2 weeks. That's the average that we've noticed. So we could see that this area, not a lot on offer. So let's make it bigger and see what comes up. Okay, only one more place. All right, let's make it still a little bit bigger. We're gonna go with that 228 as well. 4538 Spring Park Road. Okay, all 3 2s. Okay. It's 1490 on offer for 228. All right, so that's 153 a square foot. And then how long has it been here? 23 days. And I don't know about you, but I'm a curious cat and I like to see what people have done with the places. So I like looking at it. You could see this one is not so much staged. It's probably been in it's probably been somebody's home, right? And one interesting part about this house is that it is a concrete block house. So it's concrete, it's solid. It's not wooden. Something to think about because that's really important in the US. The US has, most of the houses in the US are made out of wood. All right, and our map is still not really yielding a lot of stuff for sale, is it? All right, let's make it bigger. Yes, exactly, Mr. Fahan, you're completely right, low supply. All right, so Betty Ann, oh, here's one. It's a bit further, Drexel Street, and it's only been on the market for 1 day. 3610. Grade 2. Check out the size. 1159. Not very big. How much do they want? 225. Whoa. Must have been renovated very well. Not bad. Okay, 1, 2 to 5. For just one day. So same thing. What we see is the average transactions has been 147 a square foot. The average current asking price is about 168 a square foot. Okay, let's see if we can find one more. But then that means that we're going very far. So, okay, this one, 2511 Lamy Avenue. Three, two. Okay, 1155 for 230. How long has it been here? 10 days. Okay. So this gives us a snapshot of the area. As I said, if we are really looking at purchasing this house, we will look as much as possible so that we know, is it a buoyant market? Is there high demand? What sort of demand it is it as well, right? So that this is where we go. Next, are you ready for the next set? Okay, this part here. We want, remember, this is an auction, right? So you remember what is the minimum bid on this property? $7,530.43. What we need to know is how much the maximum price is for us to make sure that our clients make a minimum of 30% return. This is really what we want to know. So the other thing that we will need to know is what our target price is, and listen to me, this is really important, how much work we're going to have to put in this property and how much we're going to have to pay in terms of repair. You've probably already noticed that the swimming pool is very green, so there's going to be a cost on that, right? So what do? We send a person, we actually send our scouts to check out the area. They are not usually able to go inside the property, but they will be able to check out the entire area so they can tell us how much work needs to be done. Later on, I will show you a video. Some of you who have attended the webinar may have seen it already, but basically our scouts will send us a video of the property. Does that make sense? So I'm going to make an estimate here. We've seen the house more or less, that this is going to be a fairly expensive renovation, 35 a square foot, so $45,000. That's just, you know, me making an estimate. Now, how much should I sell the property for? Well, we could ask as much as possible, but what is in our interest and in our investors' interests? What is in our investors' interest is to sell as fast as possible. If you can gain 1 month where you're already invested in another property, it is in your interest. So we're not going to put the property at 176 a square foot or anything like that. We might put it somewhere in between those two numbers. The recent sales. So you can see that the recent sales, sorry for the accent, were mostly around 170, a bit more. So July, 168, 188, 174, 130, right? And the new sales, they're all in the 170s. So we say, okay, let's, right now, not having seen it, let's assume that this property will go for 155 a square foot. So our target price will be 197. This number here, the cash and cash return, is what we're going to look at being, so that we know our maximum price, this needs to be 30, right? So we're gonna say, okay, so say if I do 40, okay, maybe 41, 42, no, 41. Now, why do I do this so that it's just 40? Remember, what we are looking for is what is the maximum price that we will bid at auction. So the maximum price that we would bid for this house at auction, according to the information I currently have, would be a maximum of 76,400. And this is why we do all this research. Because we know that when we go to auction, if the price goes above that, we may not make the return for our clients and we will stop bidding. One of the things that I learned very early on, and that Tony Robbins translated very well, it is super important with investments to stick to the plan and the discipline that you decided on having. I hope that makes sense to you. When your emotions are high, our intellect becomes low. So we want to be the other way around. We want to keep our emotions low and our intellect high. We want to make the intelligent decision for our investors. And this is why we do all of this research. So we know what the maximum price will be. Does that make sense? One of the very first tax auction that I actually attended with Noble Sky, this exactly happened. It was a great looking house and we could have gotten it for a little bit more money. But that little bit more money meant that we could absolutely not guarantee the return. We just knew it was too much, so we let it be. And that's how it works. There may be times where we come back and say, well, we couldn't get any of the properties at the auction. That happens. It's rare, but it does happen. But it's important to keep in mind what your maximum price is. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, remember that you all have access to those sheets. You can go back and look at them and understand them more if you want. And if you want to ask me later, ask me some more questions, I'm very happy to walk you through it or work with you on that. Yes? I'm conscious of the time because I have quite a few other things to cover with you. However, I want to show you some of our flip analysis. When we talk to our investors about investments, this is what it's going to look like. All right. So in our investors, this is actually a property that we just recently closed. So all the investors are in already, and we will always give you an idea about what the market is. And this house here in Mississippi Court, you might recognize some of this information: single family, square footage, lot size, bed. It's got one bed at the moment. We're looking at increasing the number of baths from 1 to 2 as well, right? We are looking at the average sale price in the neighborhood. The rehab assumption, we more or less know how much it would cost to do the rehab, right? So the total cost would be 180 for an after repair value of 186. We do projected results. We show you those as well so you can make an informed decision. So then you could choose, right? And we give you notes as well about, in general, about the market and what we think about this property. There is a room to build one more bathroom, which would present a premium to make more profit, right? So we give you all the information and then you can choose to be invested or not. I will show you one more that we recently closed, and this was in Michigan. Thompsonville Road in Michigan, Thompsonville. The address I cannot pronounce, but it's basically Sitka Road, right? And you could see that here, the fair market value in this area is much more expensive. And one of the attractive part about this one is not just the house, but there's a lot of land there. It's got a huge plot of land. So you could, and with an authorization to do a subdivision. So this one is closed as well. But this is the kind of research that our investors will receive to make up their mind. And of course, they can ask questions as well. Make sense? Yes? Okay. So I know we've talked about flipping a lot, but I want to talk to you a little bit about, let me make sure that yes, okay, about rental. Sharing my screen again. Here we go. All right, so about a year and a half ago, a bit more, we also went into rental for our clients because we had a lot of demand. So I want to give you a couple of the highlights of what we look at for the rental. If you have more questions, I'm happy to respond separately. And Ralph always says that if cash is king, then cash flow is his mother. And of course, cash flow is what rental is about. So there's some people that say, oh, I don't want to do rental. I don't want to manage the tenants. I don't want to have to fix the leaky aircon. I don't want to get a call at midnight because the toilet is leaking or anything like that. That is true. There's also, okay. There's also the challenge in some neighborhood. I was talking about D-class neighborhood, right? Poor neighborhood. You may be able to buy a property such as Cleveland, Ohio, for instance, where the actual property will only be $50,000 and the rental may be covered in 2 years. But when you choose to sell it, you may not be able to sell it for 50 or 60. You may only take 40 on it because it's not a lot of appreciation in this area. So it's something to keep in mind. And one of the reasons why we rarely go into D-class neighborhood. However, there are a lot of advantages to rental. One of them is that it is a great wealth building strategy, especially when you're able to refinance and buy again, right? Same thing, you also have a great tax advantage. In general, and if it's your country, the monthly cash flow will pay down the debt. Mr. Mel, yes, foreigners can get financing if they are the only owners. What I mean by refinancing is what I was explaining earlier with the BRRRR method, where buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So refinancing means you own the property outright. You go to the bank after a few months, at least 6 months, it needs to be seasoned of rental. And you say to the bank, hello, Mr. Bank, this property, yeah, you can. This property is generating $1,500 a month in rental, and I would like to refinance it. The current market value of this property is this much. And the bank looks at the business, they look at the rental, they look at the market, and they say, yeah, that's all right. We will loan you, say, 60% of this property at the current value. Then you can use this money to buy something else. You don't need to be in the US to apply for financing. However, we kind of need to go to a bank that knows Noble Sky. We do have a couple of companies that we are working with that, but you do not need to be there physically, no. So, and in that case, of course, the rent that you receive will help pay down the loan repayment. So that really helps. Of course, it's often not the case in Asia, right? Where in a lot of places, especially Singapore, Hong Kong, or even Indonesia, because it is difficult as a foreigner to get a mortgage, your mortgage repayment will be much higher than your rental. Mr. Mel, we would have to discuss that with Ralph. We use Bank of America for our own banking, but I do not know that it is the one that we use for applications for refinance. I am not sure. As I said, I would have to ask Ralph, and maybe your consultant can get back to you about it so that we get that information. But if the property is in a really good area, most banks will be open to financing it. It's just that it needs to be a bank that is familiar to helping foreign investors. All right, so as I said before, this is a hard asset. This is not a piece of paper. You can scale it to a bigger asset class. That's what I was discussing about refinancing. When you do it with us, it can be purely passive, as in you will just receive money and you don't have to worry about fixing the aircon or fixing the roof or anything, because we take care of it. In general, the property price can appreciate most times, right? Especially if you invest in areas where that are not cyclical, not like the big cities, not New York or San Francisco. There are a lot of markets in the US that are not cyclical, but it's just inching up and up and up and up. So here's how one of the ways to decide if you should sell or rent. Up to you, right? First, it depends on your personal strategy. Secondly, rental will build wealth slowly but surely. In general, as I said before, we are looking for about 10% return on rental, but on flipping, we're looking for about 30. But rental can be a little bit less scary for people than flipping is. You can build leverage. You can earn monthly or quarterly income if you rent. And as well, it will diminish your tax liability. So for rental, of course, same as what we did, you need to do an area analysis with the ethnic breakdown, the medium income and everything, exactly the same thing. Second, and I'm just going to talk you through 3 of the rules really quickly. You have 3 rules to be aware of: the 2% rule, the 50% rule, and the 30% rule. So the 2% rule is your monthly rent should be about 2% of the value of your property. In truth, with the current market, it is closer to 1. But it's a good way for you to screen a potential real estate buy. Because if you're going to buy a property for, say, $250, you want to rent it out, and the minimum rental you should have on this one would be about $2,500, and you notice that the entire market is only paying about $1,800, then you know it's not a good property for you to purchase. Does that make sense? At least not for rental. The second one is the one that people mostly ignore. The operating expenses. The operating expenses can be up to 50% of your rent. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking at a potential rental, that 50% of the rental you will receive will not be yours. It will go into paying for the different expenses. That would include property tax, fixing the roof if need be, and all of that. That's really important to keep in mind. And that is one thing that I see most people ignoring when they decide to buy an investment property. It's just a quick rule of thumbs, the 50% rules. We are closer to 35 to 40, but as a quick rule of thumb, you want to keep in mind 50. 50% of the rent is not mine. And last but not least, the 30% rule is the one we are mostly familiar with, and it's figuring out the monthly chargeable rent, right? So the household income is what comes into play here. In the case, for instance, of the property we just looked at, the area, it's $50,000 a year. So you only want to do $15,000 maximum for 1 year, which will work out divided by 12, about $12.50 maximum rental. So if your rent is going to be much higher than that, most likely few people in the area will be able to afford it. So that's something to keep in mind. I know I went quite quickly through this and we can talk about it some more, but it's just for you to have a good idea about what we are looking for when we are looking for rental properties. A good rental cap rate is a minimum of 8%. As we said before, we are actually going for 10 or more, right? Break even should be less than 5 years. And we want to be located in a working class area with positive job growth. We're never, at least not in Noble Sky, going to buy a Mac mansion for rental. Oh, by the way, a Mac mansion is a really big house with lots of square feet, and that could be worth millions. That is not what we're interested in. We are interested in things that will move quickly, and a working class area would probably mean a property anywhere between 50 to 150,000. That's it. And in an area where there is positive job growth, such as Jacksonville, Florida. So as a reminder, don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait, or buy real estate and rent it out and wait. Because you will make money both on the rental, and when you decide to sell that property, you will also make money there. You remember, you make money when you buy, not when you sell. Right, and it's nearly 3 o'clock, so I want to give you a quick break so I can swap up my slide as well. And I'm mindful of the time. I want to make sure that we finish for 4. And so take a 10-minute break, and I will see you back here at 3:10.
Hey, unmute.
Sorry, see, that happens. I get muted and then I forget that I am. All right, thank you so much, Linda, for telling me that I was muted. I apologize for that. Technical difficulties. All right, let's get on to how you can, if you are interested, or those of you that are already clients as well, if you are, how you can work with Noble Sky. And I want to show you what Noble Sky does for our clients. And as I said before, our targets for flipping is a minimum of 30%. Our targets for renting is a minimum net yield of 10%, and target Airbnb is a minimum of 15%. And I want to show you a couple of this case studies. This is a house in Jacksonville, Florida, that we were able to purchase at auction for $56,400. And total cost for it after the rehab work was $86,400. We actually are renting out this property for $12,000 a year, so $1,000 a month. And the actual rental return is nearly 14%. So I want to show you this. Actually, I know it's very small, so oops, I was hoping that there was a, I know it's very small, but this is the tax deed. And one of the things that I mentioned in the past is the reason why we like tax auction. The tax deed is signed by the local government. So that gives us a little bit of extra security. This is what the house looked like when we bought it. Not great. Needs a bit of tender loving care and needs to be cleaned and everything. And over here, you could see this is actually Ralph Said climbing into the window. Because when you purchase a property at auction, in general, they don't really give you keys or anything. You just have to find a way inside. It's your property after all. After doing a fair amount of work and rehab on this house, this one actually had a bit of termite problem as well. It's a wooden house, right? We listed it, and you could see we also staged it. So we had somebody, a staging company, bring in furniture so we could take the pictures so people can see what it feels like and imagine themselves inside the house. It was listed, as we said before, last year for $1,000 a month. And Mr. Marjady Lewis was part of the group that bought this, this property. They actually acquired 9 properties in one go in Jacksonville, Florida, and he only contributed $5,000 to that specific portfolio. He later went on to actually acquire his own property just in his name. And Mr. Kamal Ghaffar is one of our clients, and he's been very, very happy to be part of our group of clients. And he decided in 2020 to include rental as well. And he really appreciated that we were careful and we included him in that. Another case study, this is a flip, right? This is a house in Walden, New York. This is in New York State. It's about an hour away from New York City. So it's an area where a lot of the blue collar workers that work in New York itself will look for a house because obviously the property market in New York is difficult to reach for most people, right? This specific house, we purchased it at auction for $42,000, and it had quite an expensive rehab. So our total expenses for this house was $110,000. We actually sold this house for $215,000, which is a 95% increase on what we had spent on it, or our clients have. Same thing, you could see this is actually the tax deed by Walden. And when we acquired this property, the biggest problem area was the roof. The whole insulation in the roof needed to be redone. Everything else just needed a good paint job and cleaning. So this is what we did. We cleaned, repainted, fixed, and we just listed the property this way with nicely fixed roof, as you can see. And it went fairly quickly. I will share the backstory in a few minutes. And this is Mr. Richard Jenny, and Mr. Richard Jenny is actually a KO of a real estate agency in Singapore, and he's part of the group that acquired those 4 properties in Orange County, New York. And out of this, his contribution of $45,000, they actually had a 273% portfolio value growth. How many of you would like this kind of growth, this kind of potential? Yes, thank you, Miss Daisy. Thank you, Miss Anne. Thank you, Miss Nora. All right. All right, so I want to show you a video. This was during the learning journey in Houston, Texas. So the year before, we did an inner circle mastermind where we flew all of our mentors to Bali in my backyard and had some of our clients fly, have one-on-one time with them, as well as discussions about how things went on and everything. And then in 2019, in October, we had a number of our clients fly with us to the US, to Houston, Texas, to go and see how we scout the properties, as well as attend a live auction. Texas tax auctions are still held in person. So I'm going to show you this. So you see this last house, how nice it was? And it was so nice that the investors decided that they wanted to acquire this house, even though it didn't need absolutely any work. So when we acquired it, okay, there you go. Sorry about that. When we acquired it, we decided to turn it into an Airbnb. It's an A-grade area around Houston, Texas. And even though it was in the middle of COVID lockdown, there was still traveling happening in the US. And the people that were traveling did not necessarily want to go and stay in a hotel with people they don't know and in an elevator with people they don't know. So they traveled in fairly big group, but all stayed in the same house. This specific house in Houston, Texas is actually can sleep 16. So this is what we did. We just purchased the house and then we purchased the furniture to put in, right? And we listed it. And right away, made nearly $5,000 for the first month, and it kept going. Every month, it generated a nice amount of money. January and February were low months. We had a really big cold snap in Texas. But in March, we started having a lot of bids already. In March, April, and May, I'm sorry, my slides are the wrong way around, but that's okay. We had fairly high returns. And in June, we've actually also added another $7,000. The total income for 10 months was actually over $57,000, which is a return already for 10 months of about 18.5% on the purchase of the property. So the investors for this property are very, very happy. So tell me, which one would you prefer? Airbnb, rental, flipping, or all of them? Yes, I like the idea of all of the above as well. Thank you very much. And there are opportunities in everything, right? So here's a question for you. Should you try to do this on your own? Well, you could. And this is what it could cost you to do it on your own. Between creating the company, doing the research, all the work for the sales and everything, and traveling to the US for the business. This could be a total cost of $43,780 or more if you do it yourself. Mr. Mark, the decision for whether it's flipping or rental is usually done early on because it's a different structure. And if there is a decision to sell, it's usually at the majority. But most people are happy to let us manage that. So when we suggest that it is time to sell a property, most people are very happy with that because when we sell the properties, we actually solidify the returns. So even if you wanted to, even if you wanted to spend those $43,000, first, my question is, how about those spending those $43,000 in as an investment instead? Secondly, do you have the time to do this? Right? Ralph, for instance, who does a lot of the asset management in Singapore, works very often through the night. And a lot of side hustles take a lot of time. Secondly, do you have the capital? If you want to do the investment yourself, a minimum investment is probably $100,000. And if you have the time and the capital, do you also have the experience? So our suggestion, of course, is to do it with us, right? And this is what we are offering you. 100% fully owned, done for you real estate business. And it is valued at $37,180. Right? We're not going to offer you any workshop, any mastermind, any coaching. We will just do the real estate business for you. I want to introduce Miss Serene Key to you. She is one of our investors. I hope it's loud enough, but otherwise we have subtitles.
Hi, I'm Serene. I used to be a banker dealing with investments, and I handed over more than 100 million worth of funds from my high net worth clients. So I'm actually pretty exposed to all kinds of investments. But from young, actually, I'm also very passionate about investments and always look around for good opportunities. So when I heard about this opportunity from Noble Sky, I felt that it was an interesting idea, the way they did it. So me and my husband decided to invest more than 250,000 into our investments. And I would say that I'm pretty happy with so far with what I see. We have some in near Niagara Falls, and some near New York City, I believe, because we participated in a few. And I think there was also a private auction that was conducted for us. So I'm very pleased with the service. And then I think we managed to get some good buys. And I personally went down with the Noble Sky team on the US tour to see how it's actually done. So it was very interesting, and they really followed to what they have said. It's a very disciplined way of buying US properties. So I'm happy with how it's handled. And actually, one of the projects currently is being the property which I personally saw when I went to the US. It was called Don Blush. It's actually being rented as an Airbnb property, and that has been giving us decent rental income. Every month we'll be receiving some returns. So I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah. Okay, actually, I went for the course that Noble Sky conducted as well. I mean, they actually show hand and let you know everything that you need to know. I would say actually the whole process is not that easy, but however, Noble Sky, they made it easy for us, and I leave it to them really to handle the rest. They got their CPA, they have their team of people, and also they have their own ground team in the US looking out for us. So I guess our investments is well taken care of, and I feel comfortable. Definitely, I feel that they are professional, they're responsible, and if you are looking for some investments or some, like let's say, US properties to diversify your portfolio, I think it's a wise choice to go with Noble Sky. This is my take. Yeah.
All right, so as you could see, Miss Serene is actually very, very happy to be with us, right? So if you choose to join Noble Sky and subscribe to Sky Invest, this is what you're getting. You're getting your complete Wyoming corporate formation and setup, right? Remember what I described earlier? If you choose to be in Sky Flip, you will have an Inc. If you choose to be in Sky Rent, you will have an LLC. If you choose to do Sky Duo, you'll get both. And then, of course, when we purchase a company for you, sorry, not a company, a property for you, in whichever state, we will create an LLC for you. That's all included. There's no extra cost. And all that work is estimated at $1,680. And you can actually go and check in the Wyoming Secretary of State. This company here is called Blue Fire. And the owners are Mr. Faizan and Ms. Mirawati, as well as Ralph Said being the president so that he can operate. Mr. Mel, the state in which we invest will depend on a number of criteria, but one of them is how much population growth there is and how buoyant the market is and how the taxation work is. There are some states are much more landlord friendly and some states are much more tenant friendly. Needless to say, when we are the landlord, we don't necessarily want to be in the tenant friendly area. Some of the areas that we focus on is Jacksonville, Florida, as you saw, Texas. We just acquired just now, we just closed Airbnb in Texas as well. All right, and oh, New York State as well, Niagara as well. So there's a few, and we're looking at more as well, which is one of the reasons why Ralph is currently in the US. What we also do for you, which is really important, is all the taxation and the bookkeeping work. I have a lot of American friends, and they always say that they are afraid of only one thing, the IRS. And I understand that the IRS has very long reach, right? So in terms of declarations, there are a number of declarations that are really important to do at the right time, such as Form 1120, which you could see this is Mr. Richard Jenny, right? And this one, 5472. If you fail to file this form on time, you could be hit by a fine of a minimum of $30,000. So I don't know about you, but I would rather invest $30,000 in a flip or in a rent than actually pay it to the IRS. So this is how important it is to do the right thing in terms of taxation and accounting. This has a value for 2 years of $6,700. Next, the corporate compliance package. It is important to have all the paperwork done right for your own company, as well as at the level of the LLC, especially if you are co-investing. So you will have the shareholders association, the shareholder agreement, you'll have your certificate, you will have process agreements, all of that we do for you. This has got a $1,200 value minimum, all previously vetted by lawyers as well. Research, analysis, and acquisition. I don't have to go through that. You've seen some of the work. So these are the kind of research that you would get. I showed you a couple, and you've seen these two forms, so I don't need to explain them to you, but I want to show you this video.
We are at 624 Lawton Avenue. This house is vacant. You can tell by the stuff on the side of the road. Whomever tenants were, they're no longer in here. This house does have an old metal roof. So to convert this roof over, you have to go with 3/4 plywood and architectural shingles. So this roof was probably going to be about $6,800 to $7,000. That is stucco with siding. So you're probably looking at another $3,500 on the outside. Rehab on the inside is probably about $30,000. So I'm gonna say this rehab is probably gonna be somewhere around 40, 45. Once again, this is 624 Lawton Ave.
So for every single house that we will acquire, we will have something like that. Sometimes the scouts will take a walk around, discuss with the neighbors, find out what's going on and everything. That's actually quite an important part of the research. We need to have really good scouts and people that really understand how it works so that it is done right. This one is actually part of our construction crew. So he also understands really well what the cost of repairs will be.
We are at 620.
All right. So this research, analysis, and acquisition service, you could pass it on to somebody else, but most likely you would pay at least $6,700 in value for 2 years. Next, rehab and rental management. Very important. Those pictures are very small, but if you're looking closely, you could see this is before at the top and after at the bottom. Before, after. So I have a couple of videos I want to show you. This one's in Jacksonville, Florida. This was actually after the learning journey. Our team went to Miami for a training and then drove all the way to Jacksonville, Florida to visit this property that was being rehabbed.
Sagging pretty bad. So we're having to bring it back up, get some new piers under it, get it back level where it's flat across again. We're gonna take this wall out, open it up, bring it open so we can kind of run our living room and our kitchen area.
And of course, some people may enjoy the rehab. You may, in fact, I have a good friend in Australia that moved to the US for a few years to do this kind of things for his own properties, but he had to leave everything else behind. So it didn't quite work out the way he had intended to in the end.
Sagging, pretty
Sorry
bad.
about that. I'm having challenges with, I need to figure out what the problem is. This gentleman here, this is Mr. Ray Dias. You may have spotted him in this little video I showed you. He's the person wearing the green shirt. He has over 40 years of real estate experience. He is our strategic partner in the US as well as one of our mentors. And he basically specializes in rehab for any residential property, runs all our crews. His biggest deal was $67 million. Sounds good, right? And one of his specialty as well are hotel deals and rebranding. This house, you remember this house? We showed it to you earlier. This is the Airbnb. So this actually is, we have some excellent reviews on this property. I'm not going to read them for you, but we have some excellent reviews. And this gentleman, Mr. Chris Merdin, manages the Airbnbs. Right? He's got 14 years of real estate experience. He's also been helping us source other properties through wholesaling. So you get that too, and you get our specialized knowledge and training through doing that. Next, sales and listing services. And most people would think, well, that's really simple. All I have to do is call the agent and that's it. It needs to be managed. And sometimes it needs to be managed very carefully. So first, let's talk about listing. One of the things that we usually do is stage the property for the sale.
Okay, so main entrance, entering the living room. So here you go. This house is almost done, and this is the living room. And over here in the kitchen, we are almost done installing the cooking hood. And this is the other living room with a fireplace. Okay, we've repainted the entire house.
All right, we have a much longer video, but I don't want to use up a lot of your time. But it's an important part, which is the staging, and of course that has a cost. This is the house. You may have noticed it's out of red bricks, which makes it very, very fashionable and very sought after. We actually turned this house from a 3-bedroom, 2-bath to a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, which really increased the value of it. And you could see here, right? This is the purchase and sale agreement. I know it's quite small. You can see that the owner is Six Sky LLC right here. Right? And this property was sold for $165,000, which was a substantial profit for our clients. This property here in South Carolina, so we agreed for a sale from 3 Sky LLC. We agreed for a sale. The original price was $128,000. And unfortunately, the buyer did not qualify for a mortgage. So they were not able to get the mortgage. We were able to put the property back on the market very, very quick, and actually ended up getting $146,000 for our investors. And you could see here the contract of sale entered on the 21st of August. So right at the peak of the COVID challenges. This property, you remember this blue house, the one that had kind of a funky roof and needed work? When we originally listed it in August, we found a buyer for it for $185,000. And then, unfortunately for the buyer, fortunately for us, the buyer was not able to get the mortgage. So we ended up a couple of months later, finding a buyer for it, 205,900. And then less than a week later, somebody made an offer for 215,000. There was this much demand. In October 2020, we closed this house for 215,000, which, if you remember, was over 95% return. So that's what the sales and listing services is about. And also, you can actually see your investment portfolio and communicate with us through this new service that we have subscribed to. That took us quite a lot of work to put together. And I want to show you this, this demo from Mr. Farhan Anas. He actually was kind enough.
Welcome to the AppFolio Investor Portal. This is a back-end view of an actual client's portfolio. Right, once you're logged in, you can see the dashboard, which will give an oversight of all of your investments. Okay, so you can see here, these are the contributions, and these are where the 3 properties are in this particular portfolio in New York, in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as in Texas. So there's a tab on the left for tax forms. There's nothing here right now. And documents on the left, you can see these are the type of documents that you will be signing with Noble Sky, as well as things like the tax deed. Let's take a look at one of them right now. So this tax deed, as you are seeing right now, is for Burgoyne Drive in Jacksonville, Florida. So you can see that this property now has been titled to your holding entity. All right. So these are all being kept in your AppFolio portal. So distributions will show how much returns have been given to you. So what you're looking at right now is rental returns on these different dates and the amounts for the rental property in this particular portfolio. Right, contributions, what amount of capital that has been contributed for different projects. So take a look at one of them. So this particular project, for example, has a total contribution of 68,000, and you can see there's 100% ownership here. Okay, and there are 3 members in this particular holding entity, so each of them put in different amounts. So they you can see their ownership over there. Right, so this property, this is a picture, and the current market value is about 138,000. So remember, you bought it at 68,000, and it has a current market value of 138,000. Right, so this is again an overview of the returns right now. Okay, so that's about it. This is what you get as an investor, be able to see what it looks like, your portfolio in the back end.
And of course, this will create clarity for you. So this service is got over $8,000 in value. So the total value of the service is now $37,180. We have every tool, solutions, resources to help you succeed. But we want to make sure that you can invest, and we've kind of assigned the value of this of 10,000. However, bear with me, because you sat through the entire day. We are going to give you a very special price to join us as a Noble Sky client. Remember, it could cost you up to $43,780 minimum to do it on your own. And as I said before, personally, I would rather be investing most of this. So what if all of this turned your unproductive money into a passive income machine, or created you a profitable side business without the full-time commitment and without the hustle, because somebody else is doing it for you? Would that be worth it? If you create security for your retirement years, or if it pays your children's future education, would it be worth it? Well, I certainly hope that you think it will be. And this is what our offer to you is. You can become a client of Noble Sky for $5,000. What this means is, whether you are interested in Sky Flip, and you remember flipping, we call it the fat check, right? Buy, rehab, sell, and you get paid between 15 to 24 months. And it's at least 25 or above cash on cash return. It's meant for the higher risk taker because you have to wait out the entire duration of the flip. It's difficult to actually get out any earlier than when the property is ready to be sold. Or if you choose to go with Sky Rent, which is the forever check, which is buy, a light rehab, rent, that gets paid every month. And you've seen in the previous Appfolio demo how the money goes into the account every month. Between 10 to 20% net yield. And yes, it will work for those that have a lower risk appetite because you will see the income come in very, very quickly. Mr. Mark, I will actually talk about that in a second. Is that okay if we hold your question until I'm finished? All right. Your minimum investment can be as low as $10,000, and that is inclusive of your setup fee. Ideally, we recommend a little bit higher, but we've also made it so we can help you. If you want to be in both sides, SkyFlip and SkyRent, we call it Sky Duo, and that means you get everything. So in summary, the fees are $5,000. There is a deployment fee on the capital, not an extra expense. And then remember how I mentioned, we make money when you make money. This is how it works. We share the profit or the rental. And this is dependent on the total amount that you have invested in Noble Sky. So let me, with Noble Sky, let me explain to you. Say you decide to go for flip and you invest $20,000 in a flip. And then 5 months later, we come back to you again with a flip and you say, okay, I'm going to put another 20. Your total investment with Noble Sky is currently 40,000. If you do not invest anything more, when the first flip sells and the second too, your profit split will be 60% for you, 40% for us, because you belong to the gold tier capital. If you decide before the first property is sold, you decide to put another 20, then you hop into the platinum tier, and your capital, total capital involved is invested is $60,000. And in that case, at the first sale, you will receive 70% of the profit. We will receive 30% of the profit, pre-tax, for all of this. If you invest more than $2,000 and $50,000, you will be in the premier tier, and the profit share is 80-20. If you decide to invest in rental rather than flipping, the profit share, the shares will be 80%, 80-20 rental split, 85-15 if you're in the platinum tier, and 90-10 if you're in the premier tier. Important to know that it doesn't matter where the capital is involved. Mr. Mel, Noble Sky does not invest, but Noble Sky does all the work. And that's why we get the profit split. All right. And we are very incentivized for you to make as much money as possible, as you can see. If you want to go for Sky Duo, it is $8,500. So in summary, this is how it works. Your immediate payment is just that one-time fee, $5,000 or $8,500 US. Once you've set up all the documents and your setup is complete, you can deploy your investment capital for the investment of your choice. If we send you something and you don't want to invest in it, that's perfectly okay. You can wait for the next one. Very good question, Mr. Mel, about annual maintenance fees. There is no annual maintenance fee. So your contract is for 2 years from the purchase of the first property. After 2 years, there is ongoing cost of $1,200 for one company or $1,800 per year for SkyDuo, which is usually paid for by your companies, because by that time your companies are making money. So you do not need to add anything in terms of paying more maintenance. I hope that makes sense to you. So I want to show you this video. It's a little bit long, but it's very informative.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul Chong from Malaysia. As the former CEO of a global investment bank, a private equity fund manager, a lawyer and an accountant, I'm well versed with investment models. Today, I want to share my experience in partnering with Raouf Said and Noble Sky International in an effort to build my real estate portfolio, especially in a country that I cannot conveniently reach or be in at all times, such as the United States. For my business and career, I'm based both in Hong Kong and Malaysia, but I've lived and worked in major financial centers around the world, including London and New York. So I know how expensive things can be in order for us to maintain a comfortable lifestyle. I got to know Raouf when I was attending his event back in 2018. Now, this was really a bizarre chance meeting. You know, back in 1995, I was a poor MBA student at Wharton, and I had to work part-time for $4 an hour, collecting information on property foreclosures and tax liens by going through, tons of records in public libraries in the US. I was working for a real estate investment company then. Now, they didn't tell me what all these were for. All I need to know was get the information for $4 an hour. And then Raouf's advertisement on tax liens caught me by surprise. I said, my God, this was 23 years ago when I was blindly collecting, market data, not knowing what my employer was going to do with them. And now Raouf will tell me. So from that chance meeting, we went on to talk about things beyond tax liens into actual real estate investments. Now, I'm a Chinese person and I'm a firm believer in real estate. Ironically, despite me being a Wall Street investment banker, some 80% of my net worth is in real estate. I have property interests in the United States, the United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, and Australia, all of which I had to manage personally. Now, you can imagine the pain I go through every year when tax season arrives, right? Because reporting the rental income, the depreciation, the expenses, on all these properties across 6 countries around the world, it's a nightmare. I even have Deloitte do my tax returns for me, right? One of the big 4 accounting firms in the world. Then Raouf offered me something I found very, very useful. A professional team that will help me manage at least one of the countries that I'm invested in, the United States. From search to acquisition, from refurbishment to letting and sale. It's something that also can be structured on a profit-sharing basis. Now, as an investment banker, I love profit-sharing schemes because that gives my partner, in this case, Noble Sky, the utmost incentive to do the best they can, to realize the highest profit they can, rather than working for me or with me for a fixed fee. As a foreigner in the United States, I'm now assured that I can safely and comfortably own many properties in the United States, even without stepping foot, in the US. Noble Sky offered a business model that makes perfect sense to me. And that part of my business is now, if you like, run by a professional team that does not need my input or time at all. So I get time to focus on other businesses and family. Say, the 3 things that I value in them. Number 1 is their presence in the United States. I made a mistake previously buying half an office block in Melbourne, totally unseen. So my friend and I were sharing this, and we the realtor or the real estate broker showed us the building on Google Earth. We signed it, cut them a check while we were in Hong Kong, and that was it, right? that turned out to be a bit of a mistake because nothing beats what we call shoe leather investment in real estate. The ability to walk the streets, search the local databases, compare transactions across similar properties, understanding the local market, talking to local realtors, right? Getting a deep sense of the community, the demographics, and so on. So that is important. Number two, Ralph has a professional team that is highly experienced, not just as buyers, but as a team that can pull together the required labor and professionals for the renovation, refurbishment, and the ultimate sale, all at acceptable costs. And finally, what I find truly intoxicating is the drive that I see in Ralph and his team. They work tirelessly to manage, that property portfolio for us, and more importantly, their business acumen, the ability to time sales and at what we call optimum prices. Now, you may not want to sell properties at the highest possible prices at all times. There may be circumstances where you do wholesale deals. You make 3% less, but you make it 6 months sooner, and that's going to increase your internal rate of return tremendously. So it is this balance, right? The ability to read the market, not just buying at the lowest price and selling at the highest price and wait until the cows come home, but to time purchases and sales accordingly. That is one of Ralph's expertise. So since 2018, my group of investors in Noble Sky, under Ralph's guidance, have acquired 13 properties in New York and Florida states combined. Some of these we have achieved exits with fantastic returns. To draw an example, 6 of the properties we sold in Florida made us between 30 to 59% profit. And the 3 we sold in New York State, we were very happy with the exit, and one of them made us 85% in profits. I had many discussions with Ralph recently about working even closer together, bringing my network and financial expertise to bear so that Ralph can scale his business in a more efficient and faster way, maybe getting into more states or even more countries in the future. So I want to thank Ralph, ICE, and the Noble Sky team for making my life easy as I venture into the real estate business in the United States. It's something that I can't do because I'm not in the US all the time, and they have been giving me returns that I will never dream of attaining in Malaysia. So if you have the chance to work for Ralph or work with Ralph and the Noble Sky team, do try and take the opportunity to do that as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Okay, so this is kind of the end, and it's 3:55, but if you are serious as an investor, and if you would like to know a little bit more about partnering with us, being our business partner, and with the mindset of an investor and a businessman, and you're not looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, actually, Ralph calls it a get-rich-slow scheme, please stay with us so I can explain a few of the extra things that you can have. So we have a couple of bonuses for you. The first one is you can actually view the live auctions with us as often as we have them. And it's on Zoom usually. I have to warn you that most of the time it's a bit like watching paint dry, but then you get this burst of excitement for certain things, and it actually is very, very good. So this is actually very interesting, and for me it was very, very educational to go and watch my first couple of auctions with Noble Sky. Secondly, you can attend this US Real Estate Workshop anytime you want, as well as the expanded one, which is a 2-day hands-on program where you can actually do the research with us. If you are interested in such thing, not everybody is, but we run those programs when there is demand. Special bonus number 2 is actually a great bonus, and it's a matching capital. If you choose to join us within 48 hours, you can get access to matching capital for Sky Flip or Sky Rent, $2,000, and for Sky Duo, $5,000. What does it mean? It means that when you do your first investment, we will add another $2,000 or $5,000 to your investment. So let me show you with an example. This is with matching capital Sky Duo and without matching capital Sky Duo, right? So our investor invested $50,000. He is in Sky Duo, and he had the free matching capital, which was $5,000. That meant that his total startup capital was $55,000, not $50,000, which means that when he did the investment into the first property, which was $100,000, he actually owned 55% of the property, not 50%. When the property sold at $166,000, he received 55% of it. Well, first he of the whole thing. First step, return the capital, 55,000 instead of 50. Second, profit split on the balance. Since he invested 50, he is in the platinum tier, and the profit split is 70-30. So his profit or her profit was 25,410, which brings you to a total profit on the deal of 30,410, which gives us a cash and cash return of 60.82% as opposed to 46.2%. which is a 31.65% increase in your return. Would it be a good investment? Would it be worth it? Give me a thumbs up if you'd like to have extra matching capital. Thank you, Miss Linda. Thank you, Miss Ang and Mr. Aditya. Yes, absolutely. Here's special bonus number 3. If you invest over $50,000, we will return the Sky Invest fee to you during the first profit split. Only one profit split, of course. So if we go back to the previous example, you could see that we will add another 8,500 since this investor was with Sky Duo, right? And her total cash and cash return was 77.82%, which is a 68.44% increase in the profit. The original profit, cash and cash return, was pretty good. 46.20% is pretty good, but 77.82% is better, right? Last but not least, if you choose to take the fast action, so within 48 hours, invest, we will add another $500 of matching capital to your investment. Only within 48 hours. So here's what you're getting. The free intensive US real estate workshop, the matching capital, the fee return, the fast action bonus. That's a total value of $52,680 for $5,000, or $8,500, of course, if you choose to go for both companies. You also have Ralph's personal guarantee that if he is unable to acquire a property that can generate a minimum profit of 30% or 10% yield, he will refund every cent that you paid for Sky Invest Concierge, as well as 20% extra. So this is how we get started. You get started on this link below, Sky Invest Now, for $5,000 or $8,500 if you choose to join Sky Duo. There's a possibility, if you have the credit card facility, for you to get free, interest-free 12 months, but that is not something that we can help you organize. Mr. Mark, I will get back to your question. But if you are interested, but you're not sure, you want a bit of time to think about it, you can lock in your bonuses with 100% refundable deposit of 100. So if you put in $100, go to Sky Invest Deposit, you put in $100, and then within 48 hours, you can tell us whether you want to take up the Sky Invest service or not, or whether you need more time. That will also give you the option to extend this and still access all of the bonuses. So all it takes is $100 in refundable deposit. If you choose not to go ahead with Noble Sky, we will refund the US dollar, the $100 US without any questions. Ms. Ang, the usual channel for rental and flip analysis will come through your AppFolio. All your communication with Noble Sky will be through AppFolio. All right. Mr. Mark, my understanding is as long as your total, you invested a total of $50,000, the bonus 3 will apply. All right. So I managed to slide in 5 minutes. Sorry for the delay in closing and finishing this, presentation. If you have any questions, I'm very, very happy to reply to any of the questions you have. Now would be a great time. You can either choose to unmute yourself or just put your question in the box. All right, Mr. Mel, that's a really good question, and I can see you're an experienced landlord. So one of the things that is built in the contract is a sinking fund. So it's a $10,000 sinking funds that we can use, and that is paid in advance at the beginning. Because if repair cost, as you say, is more than the rental, then it might be a problem, especially if you're sharing the property. So that's how it works. And yes, any maintenance work will be taken out from the sinking fund, and the sinking fund will be replenished from the rental. So there may be months where you get a little bit less rental than others. Every unit, yes. Every rented unit has a sinking fund of $10,000, and it is not quite kept by Noble Sky because it's actually under the LLC. So say you are an investor in 22 LLC, 22 Sky LLC. It is the 22 Sky LLC will have $10,000 as a sinking fund. No, the deposit from the tenant will not be the 10,000, because if the tenant leaves and leaves the property in the right state, we have to return the deposit. So it's not in the 10,000 sinking fund. That would be a risk, right? So imagine we empty the sinking fund for something, then that would be a risk that we're not taking on your behalf. Are there any other questions? See, feel free to unmute yourself to ask them with voice as well if you want to. How many rental property does Noble Sky manage now? You know, I don't know. I would say about 10, but it keeps growing. So sometimes I can't keep track of everything. I'm not on that side. So I don't think, Farhan, do you know? We can find out. We definitely have property managers in it's all under Noble Sky, but we definitely have people in each of the locations. Yes, you can. You can go, you could check out the ownership through the property owners. through the, you'll find generally the LLCs that we start that own the property are all named similarly. There's Number, Sky, LLC. So yes, you can absolutely verify it. In fact, do you remember when I did the demonstration in the tax deed? You could actually see the owners with the property appraisal, even if it's not for sale. All right, so the property appraisal normally will be with the property assessor rather than homestead. Yeah, go ahead, ask me if you want to ask a question. Otherwise, Mr. Mel, I'm happy to have a separate conversation with you and to answer any further question you have. And thank you very much for staying on and listening and holding on through the research and the number. All right, Mr. Mel, I'm happy to chat with you, not a problem. All right. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Miss Ang. I really appreciate you showing up. And I can't wait to see what your first investment is going to be. Registering the company is very quick. It takes a maximum couple of weeks. Bye. Opening a bank account can be a challenge because generally banks do require you to physically be there, but we will help you as well as much as we can. And if it's a rental, for instance, we usually pay directly the owner of the LLC. And we use TransferWise, or as it is known now, we use Wise to transfer money as well. How to pay to owners there? We pay you directly. No, that's all inclusive. Once you're a client of Noble Sky, you're a client of Noble Sky. So where all the services that Noble Sky normally does for the clients stays acquired to you as long as you're a client. The only thing that we need you to pay for is the tax services and the accounting, of course, and the company registration. Mr. Danny, thank you for being here. I appreciate having people to speak to, even though I speak to the green light. Thank you, Miss Felicia. You're welcome, Mr. Riyashdin. Sorry, I apologize if I... Yeah, absolutely, do. And come back to us whenever you're ready. The bookkeeping, Mr. Lai, actually is part of the $1,200 that is paid every year after the 3 years, that is paid every year by your company. What happens if there is little investment after 2 years? Well, it depends what you call little. And I guess this is a conversation to be had at this time with Noble Sky and with Ralph Said. You're welcome, Mr. Lai. Mr. Jerome, we do that every month, more or less. So I think the next one is going to be the first weekend of, oh my goodness, September. And also maybe speak to the consultant who invited you, and you may be able to get the replay if you are in a hurry to find out and to invest. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Mark, you can have for this amount, for the 5,000, you can have 4 people in the company. Yes, it would cost extra if you were to change the people. And let me add that it needs to be 4 people of the same family rather than being other people like business partners. If you want to go into a partnership with someone, we strongly, strongly recommend each person has their own companies. To my knowledge, there isn't. But of course, they will not have you sign on their behalf. Well, that's actually handled by our accounting department. So it shouldn't be a lot of extra paperwork, but if you do want to add more than 4 into the company, we'll have to charge a little bit more for each person that you want to add over 4 people. You're welcome.